Alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam, Rasulullah. So the third point that we were talking about in regard to the concept of jihad, we talked about why al-jihad was ordained in Islam. لماذا شرع الجهاد في Islam? And we talked about there is three areas, or three reasons. One is to remove injustice. Two, to defend Islam. And number three is to ensure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word is protected and it is dominant and higher. In this, the problem with this third one, or the first one we counted, that's where a lot of discussion comes, what that exactly means. Is a Muslim must fight every single nation, every single country around them until they submit to the authority of Muslim country or that caliph or that emperor and became under his basically control, or they give the jizya as we all familiar. Does that mean if Islam ever established in a country, it means this country will declare war against the world, Is that what the jihad is? It means what's known as jihad al-talab. Jihad al-talab. That because the other kind of jihad, which is jihad meant to defend yourself, there is nobody argue about this. Everybody say okay. But where's the problem comes? When it comes to the other type of jihad that the Muslim jurist said. Before I go into this, I just want to make sure that we understand something clear. The classification of jihad al-talab, jihad al-dafa, this classification made by scholars is not something made by Allah or the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whenever we want to study any subject in Islam, we should go back to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We look at the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he implemented the concept of jihad. One of the mistakes that I have seen, a lot of people, they go look at the life of the Umayyads or the Abbasis or the Ottomans and take from this understanding of what al-jihad is. As we know, not all the rulers who ruled the Muslim world through these dynasties, they were fighting necessarily for al-jihad itself. They were fighting for expansion their territories, expansion for resources. It is to make himself a great king, not necessarily because he really cared for Islam or da'wah or anything like that. As a matter of fact, the vast majority was not for that purpose, especially in the Abbasis and the Ottomans and the big portion of the Umayyads as well. So you cannot just say, hey, this caliph said that, this person said that, and I take this as a proof that this is how Islam should be. We should go back to the Prophet ﷺ's life. النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, as Ibn al-Qayyim رحمه الله said, قال ما بدأ النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جهاد قتال قوم قط حتى كانوا هم الذين بدأوا. Ibn al-Qayyim said in Zad al-Ma'ad, النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم never started a war with people unless those people are the one who started first. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ never started a war with people unless those people started the transgression first. Okay? And if you look at the Prophet ﷺ's fights, if you look at the Khulafa's fight, okay, it is all because of the threat that made to the Muslim country, in the Muslim world, by those people, by the people of Mecca, by the people of Al-Ghassan, north of Iraq, north of Arab Peninsula, by the Roman states, by the Persian Empire. Okay, those people have made a real threat to that, and they were even paid the Arab tribes in the north of Arabia to attack Muslims, and they did, and they supported them. So the threat was, it's just not, hey, who should fight tomorrow? It's never like that. As I said, the Muslim never, for example, attack Abyssinia, because the Abyssinian nation and king never were a threat to the Muslims, never were a threat to the Muslims. So that's number one. Number two, when we look at the modern world today, the way we look to any legislation in Islam, we cannot take it just as a tax. We have to put it in a context. We have to look at the application of this legislation in modern days. For instance, when you talk about business transaction, when we talk about any concept in Islam, we look at it in the context of modern days. So what al-jihad fit in today? Is it just that everybody carry a sword or everybody carry that? Or how that will fit today? We see that today politically the Muslim world and the world in general are more complex than what it used to be centuries ago, or 1,000 years ago, or 500 years ago. Two, when we look at the reasons and the wisdom behind the jihad, and we look at the jihadi movements today, as I said earlier, just recapping the most important point I mentioned earlier, that none of these three areas, defending Islam, removing injustice, making the religion of Islam respected and dominated, none of these ever, not even as slight as 1% established to be these jihadi movements. It's the complete opposite. It's a bad reputation for Islam. It's more injustice happened by them and by the abusers. They became more transgressors. And they never defend anyone. They never free anyone. They never did anything. As a matter of fact, it is more lands occupied, more problem happened to the world. So when we ever look at any ruling, we have to look at the outcome of this legislation, the outcome of this practice, what it will lead to. And also we said that today, the world, the issue of jihad al-talab, to fight people who didn't fight you. Ulama said, you fight people who never fight you in the following cases. Number one, if they are a threat, a potential threat. Somebody you know that he will strike you later. So you strike them first before they strike you. Number two, a person who, even if they not strike you militarily, they basically is stopping you and fighting your religion, destroying your religion. They declare war against your religion, your deen. Okay? And in this third, ulama also said that whenever you attack people that they didn't attack you, if there is a treaty between you and them, you cannot attack them. If there is a treaty of no war. And we said today, if we look at today's world, all the countries, they have a treaty among themselves, which is signed by all the countries that no country should invade other country, should not attack other country, which is known as the United Nations Agreement between all the countries today. And when the jihadis movement today say, oh, who cares about United Nations? And one guy once told me, he said, United Nations for you and people like you. I said, hey, but when you talk about, like he said, do you want me to accept a treaty signed by the Egyptian authority, by the Saudi authority, by these corrupt authorities? I said, okay, which authority will make that decision? You can make the authority, you can make the decision of declaring war against a country or a nation. Who are you to make that decision? Or to declare peace? And I said too, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam have said that anyone among Muslims made a treaty and talked on behalf of Muslims, all the Muslims should honor that treaty. Anyone said you are for them, you are protected, I give you my protection, it is a protection. Then somebody said, Sheikh, but United Nations gives so many things which is you yourself will not agree with it. Protect the right of this and that, which is you don't believe in it. I said, even if the treaty had conditions or had areas which is not fair, which is not just, which is un-Islamic, does not break the treaty. Even in Mecca, when the Prophet made the treaty between him and the people of Quraysh, among the treaty there is points are not fair. For instance, the Prophet ﷺ in the treaty says, if a Muslim wants to be a Muslim and he basically leaves Mecca, we have to give him back to the people of Mecca. He want to be Muslim, he want to free himself, and he want to leave Mecca. We give him back to them? Yes, that's what the treaty says. And the Nabi ﷺ signed it. And he never broke the treaty. So when there is a treaty, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, even if someone asks you for help, a Muslim brother, ask you for help to fight with him against enemy. But Allah said, you have to support them except إِلَّا عَلَى قَوْمٍ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَهُمْ مِيثَاقٌ. unless they are fighting an enemy, that there is a treaty between you and that enemy, that you cannot fight him. So see the scenario in the Quran says that if there is a group of Muslims fighting a group of non-Muslims who are abusing them, who are attacking them, and you as a third party Muslim group, they have a treaty with that non-Muslim group, you cannot fight them because of the treaty between both of you. The treaty is something very valuable. You can't just betray people. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inna Allah la yuhibbul kha'ineen. Allah will never love, and He will never accept and love traitors. And He will never ever agree on transgressions. The fourth point that I want to make in relation to the concept of jihad and the jihadist movement today, which is a question that a lot of jihadi movements raise today. If we don't fight, if we don't have jihad today, isn't that ta'til li shari'a min sha'airillah? Aren't we in this case are cancelling and putting in hold and freezing one of the law of Islam? One of the law of Islam is to have jihad. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-jihadu madin ila yawm al-qiyamah. Al-jihad will continue until the day of judgment. So if you, Sheikh Walid, saying there is a treaty today in the United Nations, no fight, no this, no war, no jihad, you are cancelling and basically freezing one of the law of Islam, one of the principle of Islam, one of the sharia of Islam. I don't know if you ever heard people saying that. That's a very common argument that they say today. And this is one of the most strange, weirdest question I ever heard in my life in this area. Why? Because it shows me how misunderstanding those people have when it comes to the jihad. Number one, they thought al-jihad is only fighting, and we dismissed that point first. When they said, you cancel al-jihad. But who said al-jihad is only fighting? Al-jihad is way bigger concept than fighting. There is so many other areas of jihad you still can do. You still can have jihad against the non-Muslim through the da'wah, through the work of da'wah, through the, because it's jihad is a struggle. I struggle, me and the church next door, we have a struggle against each other. Who will win that citizen walking the street? Can I convince him to go to this church or that mosque or that synagogue? We're all having jihad over that person. Who can convince that person to accept which religion? That struggle against other people, that's in itself, identifying Sharia as jihad, has nothing to do with shooting him, has nothing to do with fighting him. That's in itself a jihad. So when you say you are canceling it as if the only jihad you know is to fight, so what about putting your effort today, the Muslim Ummah, and to come across the world as a nation that everybody would say, I would love to be part of this nation. I would love to be part of this civilization. I would love to be part of this community, because the moment I walk into this community, you know what? I will be a better person. I will be a better economy. I'll have a better life. I'll have a better family structure. I will have this. Isn't that another jihad also? Did we cancel this jihad? Did we say, hey, it's canceled? It is because of their very narrow vision, very narrow way of understanding the concept of jihad that's only about fighting. So if there is no fighting, as if there is something missing. That's number one. Number two, the misunderstanding also comes from a very wrong understanding of the nature of the fighting concept in jihad. The fighting is a means, never was a goal. Al-qital fil Islam wasila wa laysa ghaya, is a mean, never was a goal. We don't fight because of the sake of fight. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَإِن جَنَحُوا لِلسَّلْمِ فَاجْنَحْ لَهَا. If we choose to have a peace, don't choose anything over peace. Because the jihad is not intent for itself. If you can establish what you want without fight, that's better choice. So a lot of people think that the point is to die, the point is to fight, the point is to blow something up. That's not what it is. That's not the point. The whole point of al-jihad is to open the door for the da'wah, to give people fair chance to hear Islam. So if you can achieve this way by any means other than fighting, you should do that first. You should do that first. Okay? So, for them to say you are canceling jihad, as if jihad has to be something, as if it's a mean, it's a goal. Sorry, they think of it as a goal, not as a mean, can be replaced with other means as well. So if I can remove injustice without fighting, I will go with that. If I can make kalimatullah al-ulya without fighting, then I will go with that. That's not canceling the jihad of Sabilullah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3, there is also a weird mixing between two different things like day and night. Something we call it in Sharia al-hukm al-kawni wal-hukm al-shar'i. What that means, al-hukm al-kawni, al-hukm al-shar'i. Hukm al-shar'i, it's a ruling that's established by the Sharia. The Sharia ordered us to do it. Al-hukm al-kawni, it is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He Himself does it. He Himself does it. We're not been ordered to make it happen. It happened without us doing it. What is the point I'm trying to make here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when the Prophet ﷺ telling us that the jihad will continue until the day of judgment, not because he wants us to fight until the day of judgment, but what if everybody became Muslims? We're going to fight one another? So we can keep going? Nobody ever think that. I know it's silly, but this is what it is. What it is, this statement in this ruling saying that there will be always people who abuse her. There will be always people oppressed. There will be always people misuse the power. That's why there will be always jihad to fight those oppressors. There is always people who will hate Islam, will hate the religion, and they will have day and night thinking about attacking it and destroying it. That's why there will be always mujahideen fi sabilillah stand up against such dictators, against such people who plot and who try actively to harm Islam and Muslims. But that's what I'm saying. It happened. It happened to have injustice. It will happen to be. We don't make it happen. So when the Prophet said it will continue until the day of judgment, because this life, shaitan will live until the day of judgment. Abuser will live until the day of judgment. People will continue to live. So that's what this hadith means. That's how you understand this hadith. It doesn't mean that, hey, you have to be actively fighting until the day of judgment. Number 4, which is also a point that it should be made. Even though this hadith, the jihad will continue until the day of judgment, is weak narration, but that's not my point, because the meaning of it is generally accepted by every Muslim. The hadith, not as a hadith is weak, but as a statement, it is mentioned in every book and fiqh and aqidah. It's absolutely correct. Okay, but what this hadith means, when the Prophet ﷺ said that al-jihad will continue until the day of judgment, al-jihad as a part of Islam will continue. Nobody can cancel it. The need for it will be always exist. But it doesn't mean that every single moment, every single person must be practicing every aspect of it 24/7. That's not what this hadith means. It's like when I say, az-zakat will continue until the day of judgment. You know what? Akhuna Muhammad Sa'ad, he feels so bad when I say this hadith. Why? Because he doesn't have money to give zakat this year. And Tariq will be very depressed. I don't have money to give zakat this year. You know what? I'm canceling one of the Sharia of Islam because I didn't give zakat this year. Can anybody say that? No. Not giving zakat for 1 year, it means because he doesn't have the means for it. He doesn't have the money for it. Okay? Is that means that the zakat is cancelled? No. As zakat continue until the day. But when you need the condition of the zakat, you give it. When you fulfill the conditions of zakat, you give it. That's right? That's right? The same thing. Al-jihad, whenever al-jihad meet its conditions, and it meets the pillars of jihad are exist, and the conditions are fulfilled, and there is no hindrance, al-jihad will be established. Al-jihad will be established. And this is how we understand this concept of al-jihad will continue until the day of judgment. But to say this means that we have to fight if there is no fight happening in the world, we have to start a fight. Because al-jihad has to be. This is ridiculous understanding, nonsense in Sharia, nonsense in common sense, nonsense common sense. Also, when we talk about the fulfillment of the condition of the jihad, the ulama said there is a jihad about defending yourself and fighting the abuser, the attacker, and the other one, no, you attack people who didn't attack you because you deem a threat, a potential threat to you. Okay. The first one that it is jihad al-dafa', which is basically you've been attacked by someone fighting back. I think this area everybody agree on it. I don't need to spend time. The problem in the other one, that's where it's been used to justify all what you see today, most of what you see today. When we say that this is the ruling here, one of the conditions that the Muslim jurists and the majority of the Muslim jurists put is this type of jihad must be done under the leadership of a ruler. A ruler. I know there is no consensus about this. Even Ibn Qudama mentioned there is a consensus about it. I believe there is a consensus about it among the early Muslim jurists. There is no doubt about that. If you look at the statement of Hasan al-Basri, al-Awza'i, and all the scholars in the past, they're very clear in the 3-4 generation Islam, very clear that this has to be done under the leadership. For instance, Hasan al-Basri said, the leader, the responsible for, and one of the things, al-jihad. Al-Awza'i said, the leader responsible for, 1, 2, 3, one of that, al-jihad fi sabilillah. Al-jihad fi sabilillah in this particular area, very similar to the verses that says, punish the killer, punish the thief, punish the adulterer. Question, if there is an adulterer, just anybody in the street go and punish him? Anybody should go and cut people's hand? Anybody just go and kill the killer? Or who is responsible for this? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, did Allah say in the Quran, hey judge, you are the one who's supposed to do that? Allah didn't say that. Allah said, oh who you believe. But no one among the history of Islam, except very, very small percentage in modern days, okay, and through the history, this deviant sect called Khawarij, who claim that this is a right for every Muslim to do it. But everybody else, all the Muslims through the history, understood that the companion, the successor, the follower, understand that this is the responsibility of the ruler, responsibility of the judge. Why? Because it's just not by, hey, I think you did. There is a rules of conditions and investigation need to be made. That's right. That's why it's in the hand of the ruler, because of the consequences of it. Because if we open this, it became no country, became no law, no society. Everybody carried the law in his own hand. And it became a mess. The same exact reason the scholars said that this type of jihad is to attack people. It has to be done by a well-established government and ruler. Because if you open this door, it became a mess. And that's what exactly we see today in the Muslim world. Who will consider that those people are a threat? Who will make that call? Because if you attack, you don't attack as a 3-4. You bring the whole nation behind you. You cause a whole entire damage to the whole entire segment in the society. Who can make that power? Who can make that call? Who can make that call that, you know what, I can remove the injustice. I can remove this. I can defend that. No doubt that this is the person of power. Not 1,200 people living in caves in Afghanistan or Pakistan. Not 300 people living in a desert in Sinai. Not 400 people or 10,000 people living here and there. Or 20 or an individual living in Yemen or in America, or this shooter in Ottawa think that, hey, you know what, I'm declaring jihad by doing this. I mean, who can make that call? It is that if you open the door, it became mist like what you see today. There is a consequences of declaring war, declaring peace, territory, rulers, appointing it. You know, that's why in Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when did he start the jihad fi sabilillah? Look at the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu. Even the jihad of defending himself. When he went to Medina, when he established a state, when there is a political entity in place. When there is a political entity in place, that's where the jihad. Where is already a well-established state. Not the mess that we see today in the world, not the mess that we see today. Another point one of the conditions of the jihad, that in jihad has to be with ability. Al-qudra al-jihad. You have the capability of declaring jihad. So one of the conditions to have the leader, the second is to have the capability. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ prepare power, have power before you engage in any war. That's the capability that today, that most of these jihadist groups have, to make any impact, to make any change. Nothing. And don't tell me, oh, the Sahaba was 200 and this was 2,000. You're not talking about 200. First of all, you're not the Sahaba. Two, it's not today. This is the whole entire game war today. Today he kills you in Iraq while he is in Texas. It's like a game, moving the drone. There's nobody ever said that. Is it the point to die? Is it the way just to kill yourself? Is that how Islam will gain victory? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ Don't kill yourself. And what we see today, just a complete suicide. Not to the individual, they're causing a suicide to the whole religion today. That's why al-qital in the Quran is about making Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word and the deen strong, not weak, not ugly, not bad. To weaken your enemy, but you're not actually. Number 5, one of the conditions as well is a raya, which is a very important condition, is what you calling under which banner? In another word, under what goal? Do you really buy, oh, we're going to have the Islamic State, the Khilafah in Iraq and Syria? Is that really a goal? Is that even a reasonable goal? Is that there is any sign to show you that there is a Khilafah even there? And I don't want to limit to this incident because these guys are like a bubble. It's going to go, we're not going to even mention that. They are into the history very soon. But through all the course of the last 100 years, or not 100 years, about like 50 years, we've been struggling with this issue today. Okay, so through the history, what kind of banner that you be fighting for? A lot of people who went to Afghanistan to fight, and I used to ask, Sheikh, what do you think of going to fight? Under what banner? What exactly are you fighting? A civil war between different groups? Well, everyone claimed that they are fi sabilillah. And what is the banner that you're fighting for today? What is need to be established when you go to Syria to fight? What's the banner? What actually the goal? Do you even know? No, most of the cases they don't know. That's why when you don't have a political entity clear, elected and approved by the people, and known, born in the light, it became so dark to go fight with these groups because you didn't know what's going on there. Especially knowing that most of these groups actually infiltrated by intelligent communities. Number 5, the point that I want to mention in relation to the issue of jihad, it has to do with a lot of the du'at. And I say this and I hope this nasiha reach to every da'i. Recently, I don't want to mention names to put people in trouble, but recently I visited one of the Muslim community, okay? And the Muslim community in this city told me about one of the very, very active da'iya. Very nice guy, you know, and I hear him, and then they said, Sheikh, can you just look at his Facebook? When I look at his Facebook, what is very disturbed. Maybe there is nothing technically wrong with what he's saying, but the amount of talk about the jihad and the importance of jihad and this, the importance of relieving injustice, and you know, there is no doubt. See how I started my lecture with all the ayat, the verses, the virtue of jihad and dying for sabilillah and murders and stuff like that. You know, the whole entire thing like this. Lately, all his speech, all his khutab is about this. But yes, I understand that. But imagine if now I can now make you hyped up to the heavens. I can bring you the story, I can give you the fight stories, the murders, the jihad, the fight, and I hype you up to the max. I get so excited. My, what do you call it, I don't know, goes kick very hard. You know, I go tomorrow to my work, he goes to his wife, everybody released their frustration somewhere or not. And what happened with the single guys who goes home cooking? This frustration, nobody else to take the shock, except I'm putting it seriously. And I mean that, because a lot of single people, before I used to think it's a joke, but by studying basically the trend, it is a common thing. Okay? So a lot of people, what happened? Forget about married, not married. Getting them so excited, then I have nothing to offer. I have no solution for them. I get them so excited about something, they can't do anything. It's like going to the sister and give them this wonderful lecture about Al-Hur Al-Ain. What are they going to benefit of Al-Hur Al-Ain? Okay? Doesn't like, I come to the poorest community and I talk about the sadaqah. They all deserve sadaqah. I go to the people in jail and talk about something that has nothing to do with people in jail. I hype them up. Then I leave them hanging like this. You know what happens when we do that? When we hear lecture, nasheed, and unfortunately this is the outcome of a tarbiyah for a long time. I was raised with I was all my life with religious groups, alhamdulillah. And you know what? I still remember so many of the nasheed that you hear, the story, the words, this poetry is all about jihad, 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 jihad. You know, stories and this. But when you hype people up to that level, then you keep them hanging. What's going to happen? They're going to start looking for something to meet this beautiful picture they draw for them. Yes, I am, as a sheikh, as a da'i, I'm not calling people to go join ISIS, but what I happen through my Facebook, through my khutbah, through my talk, I hype these guys up and I left them very easy target for these deviant groups and sects to pick them like that. I raise them in a way that I make them very vulnerable, because they don't know how to release themselves. And that's something need to be changed. In our speech, in our language, in our mufradatna al-adabiyyah, al-da'awiyah, the way we give da'wah, we need to make sure that we, very wise in why. So people say, Sheikh Walid, why you don't talk about jihad? So I talk about jihad for who? I talk about the certain type of jihad that me and you can do. But talk about the fighting for what? What's going to be the fight that we have? I'll speak about the jihad if there is a fight. You know, whereas basically a legit jihad is. Yes, I will talk. I'll say, hey, stand up and defend your country and defend your deen and defend your aqeedah. Number 6, one of the most important principles in Islam is the concept of masalih and mafasid, advantage and disadvantage, good and bad, weighting it. There is nothing in Sharia ever legislate the bad in it more than the good. Anything that you do, it will make things worse, is un-Islamic. Anything that you do, it will make it worse and good or bad and good equal, is un-Islamic. The Sharia always comes with things where the good are more than the bad. And if you look at that, and look to our, unfortunately, overexcited, overzealous brothers, and still they're Muslim, I call them brothers and sisters, who are way far in this area. And what they have done, did they brought any goodness, any change? These attacks that take place, did make any change in the world, make anything better? It make things worse. Do you think 9/11 have done any good to the Muslim in the world? Do you think 7/7 have in England have done any good to the world? Have done worse result, worst outcome. In Saudi Arabia, do you think the bombing of the police stations have changed the Saudis? You know, the killing the soldiers in Egypt have changed Egypt? There is all these things that you see. There is any good can come out of this kind of behavior? No. Number 7, the point, it's 8 points. So the point number 7 is the way you look today in modern days to the concept of jihad in a form of fighting. As we exactly look at the concept of Hajj, the concept of Islamic education, what we have today, we have regulated classes, we have people in charge, we have a Grand Mufti position, we have a Justice Department, you have a court system, that's right? You develop that. Nobody ever said, hey, let's go back to the court system during the Prophet ﷺ time. You sit in the masjid, everybody walk, everybody can be, you go to somebody and he can become a judge. Nobody said that. Today, nobody have a problem with developing the justice system, to justice department, to a court system, appeal court. All the system is developed. Education systems, and fatwa ministry, da'wah ministry, and so forth. That's right. Everything developed because the world evolved. Why in the world the word jihad is the only one cannot be developed as well? Today, what you see in the modern world, how the concept of jihad, and that's a lot of non-Muslims, that's how I explain it to them when I go to churches, invited, or talk even on radio before. I said this to them: al-jihad is what we call today a defense minister. So if there is a Secretary of Defense, he needs to know how to rule the army, what are the rules, what are the conditions, how to behave, what is the etiquette of engagement, rule of engagement, and war, and prisoners, and all this. That's what you read in the books of jihad. It has to do with what we call today the Ministry of Defense, the army of the country. That's what it is, the jihad today. They are the one who are responsible for defending, responsible for fighting, declaring war. It is a huge amount of power and force. This al-jihad is an al-qital, fighting, let's be more specific. It's a huge amount of force. If you don't control it, it will destroy whatever is in front of it. If you just fill up people with rage and anger and fight, they can be a destructive to themselves and to others. You control it, you put it in rules and regulations, you channel it in the right direction, That's why there will always be jihad until the day of judgment. The Muslim country, the Muslim state should have an army to defend it, should have an army to be ready to promote right and goodness in the world. And that's where you can basically take all these excited people to want to fight. Go to the army, enlist in the army, and be part of it. Especially looking at the jihad in the old days, it's about carrying sword and getting fight. It's all about your physical strength. Today, jihad is not like that. Trained. Who training you except the army? Basically, and you be trained, well-trained soldier that you can fight in the modern world today. So that's why I said again, the concept of jihad today appeal on the concept of the country, the state, and its rules and regulations, and part of it the Ministry of Defense or the army. The number 8, and the last point I want to mention in relation to the concept of jihad and the jihadi movements today, that so many of these modern jihadi movements, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, you name it, Qaeda al-Jazeera al-Arabiya, Boko Haram, in Lashkar Taiba, in Kashmir, many of these groups, the Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis in Egypt, Jamaat al-Jihad in Egypt, some in Algeria, Al-Qaeda in North Africa, in Mali, in Libya, so many of these jihadi movements with all these different names that they have today. You notice the following. One, there is an extreme element in their views and in their position against those who even dare to disagree with them openly. Just me disagree with one of them or some of them, they may takfir Walid is kafir, his blood spilled, and halal to kill him. Sheikh so-and-so, immediately have no, this is extreme reaction. Also extreme in the issue of takfir. Also extreme ignorant. You see that they have no knowledge of Sharia. Most of the people who involve and even lead this kind of movements have no Sharia background, most of them. Desires. Also, they are motivated by the spirit of revenge and hate and rage. And that one of the main reasons, they're extreme in their view of implementing the Sharia. Look at what happened in Syria and Iraq. It turned people off, turned people away. Don't be deceived by the number of people here and there, that fantasy word that they want to live and they go there. You just heard about the two the three girls, 50 from Colorado, 15, 16 years old. They were stopped in Germany. 15 years old, she going there. You know, I met a guy who now facing a charge for terrorists. So I was asking him, why did you, to explain why I met him, his lawyer, who trying to defend him and to get him reduced sentence, want me to meet the guy and to give my opinion as a sheikh that this kid is innocent. He just been deceived. Okay, and his lawyer is a very nice guy, tried to really to help the kid. So, and he's just a young kid. And he said, Sheikh, I just want to get married. I get, you want to get married in Syria? He said, yeah, the girl I want to get married to, she put a condition on me that we go to Syria. So he wallahi seriously think that he's going to have his honeymoon in Syria. And he will live in that fantasy world. He said, I'm not into fight, I don't even have a game, I don't play video games. He said, very like, anyway, 4 months Muslims only, 4 months in Islam. He wanted to get married, so the girl said, let's go to Syria. He said, I was gonna go there. I told her, okay, we can go there. I was planning to have a home in the Khilafah, the Muslim world, everything is nice. I said, Habibi, it's a civil war, civil bloody war. Bomb from left and right. You serious? He said, I didn't know that. He never been out of his state in his life. He didn't travel outside the state. Not the states, his own state. Facing 18 years in jail for $50 donation. And stupid talk over internet. And also shows you that our justice lack morality and passion in it. It's an impassion. Yeah, compassion, okay. Anyway, so going back to the point, you see there is like also that fantasy life where things, seeing things like black and white, and this is a big problem today. This ideology of the jihadi movements have led to the very dangerous symptoms or impact on Islam. And I want you to pay attention to each and every one of them because it's really important to see this. So these jihadi movements with their ideologies led to the following in the society. One, break the community. These ideologies, any community goes to break the community to civil war, to sectarian wars, to break even to the community against turning against each other, us versus them. Okay? Number two, it care a lot about destroying any kind of loyalty to your country. So the first thing they teach you, you're not Egyptian, you're Muslim. You're not this, you're this, you're not Saudi, you're not following you're Muslim. You're not American, you're Muslim. So they care so much about thinking there is a conflict of identities here. So they strip you from anything to have to make you loyal to your country, to your place. What that helps tomorrow if I'm not loyal to the place that I belong to, that's very easy to agree to attack it or somebody else to destroy it. I don't feel any empathy or any kind of interest in this place. Number three, they don't give any practical solution to the Muslim problems except fighting. That's the only solution they have, fight. Do you have any political solutions? Do you have any economic solutions to the war? Any way that, you know what, any way that people can actively make a change in society? No, actually they don't. Also, one of the things that I think this group have caused in the Muslim Ummah, that they have filled our community and our youth around the world with so much negative emotions, so much hate, so much feeling of oppression, feeling of injustice. That's all what they feed you day and night. Oppressed, injustice, killing, unfair, not fair, not fair, unjust. So you became rage, hate, bara, and all these words. What happened? You filled the people's heart and mind with the toxins. Because this negative emotion doesn't build you up, it just frustrate you. And that's why you have a nation and a generation and a lot of people who just filled with these kind of negative emotions inside them. And when you're filled with that, it's so easily to flip, so easy to be taken to the wrong direction. One of the things that these jihadi movements have caused in the Muslim world as well, it completely separates the Muslims community from the scholars, from the student of knowledge, from the knowledge itself. The scholars are kasab. You know, Sheikh Yasser Qadhi, I was reading his Facebook today, this morning, and he just posted something in relation to, and it's very good in Washington Post, I think, or The Guardian, I think The Guardian, in England, an article written by a guy who arrested in England recently. Okay, his brother posted something about the experience, his stepbrother. How this guy who knows, he lived with him all his life and flipped. So they talk about this. And the first 10 comments in the Facebook, how much they pay you for that? How much they pay you to say that? How your salary coming from the American government, the British government, blah, 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 blah. All the, so what happened if you're just individual, you read all this comment? Oh, Sheikh Walid, how much the FBI pay you to this lecture? You know how much this to do? Oh, Sheikh Salah, Sheikh this. And they didn't know that we are like anyone else. We don't get anything except harassed in the airport. You know? So when you say that this is, I'm not saying we're a scholar, but student knowledge. You know, wallahi, Allah's my witness, I have heard them with my own ear. How they talk about Bin Baz ibn Uthaymeen. They said they are al-jibt wa al-taghut. They talk about the scholars that they are the worst. These jihadi guys. Al-Fuzan is a sellout. Saudi shuyukh, the Egyptian shuyukh are bad. Everybody is bad. So what happened? Where do you take your religion from if all these scholars are bad? We introduce you our own. And it create that gap with the scholar. Also, it give one of the outcome of this movement in the Muslim world, especially in the religious community, it became religiosity. It's something means you became rigid, you became angry, you became as if you're war, and the whole Sharia is about punishing, cutting this, cutting that, you know, killing, and this is the whole entire talk. The whole entire talk. You know, I was looking into a blog by a mujahida with ISIS. Okay, it called herself the Birds of Jannah. Oh my God, wallahi, these guys need a serious psychological evaluation. Well, I'm not making joke. I feel bad for the way they think. It's just the way the fantasy world that they're living in, the bubble that they create for themselves, the terminologies that they use. It's as if Islam is all about all this war and fight and being strict and being this and being that. You know, when I saw my husband for the first time putting the Kalashnikov in his